Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Remina. Now, if I'm saying that name wrong, let me know. Now, Remina is a manga written and illustrated by Junji Ito. A manga, for those of you who don't know, is a Japanese comic book or graphic novel. Now, this was first published in Japan in 2005, however, I believe it hasn't been published in the States until recently. At least this edition of Remina was published in 2020. Now, Junji Ito is also the writer of mangas like Gaio, Uzumaki, and the Tomi series, and he's honestly one of my favorite horror writers, and I'm not even a huge fan of manga or anime, but honestly, I think he's an amazing writer. Like, his mangas are just so unique and so out there and so weird, and also so disturbing. Now, throughout a lot of Junji Ito's work, you definitely see an influence of H.P. Lovecraft, and I would say you definitely see the Lovecraft influence in this one. This might honestly be his most Lovecraftian story, because the story is pure cosmic horror mixed with apocalyptic horror. So the plot of Remina is it's set in an unspecified time in the future. Like, you see that people have flying cars and jetpacks, but in the story a scientist discovers a massive object that appears to be a planet that has entered our universe through a wormhole, and he names the planet after his teenage daughter Remina, and she becomes world famous because of this, and she's kind of pressured into making a deal with an advertising agency, and they make her a pop star. And as this planet called Remina, or Remina, however you want to pronounce it, is moving throughout the universe, it's discovered that any star systems that it encounters just disappear. And it's also discovered that this planet is heading for our solar system, basically on a collision course for Earth, and it's soon revealed that this is not actually a planet, but a massive planet-sized alien creature. So, because of this, society plunges into pure chaos and anarchy, and because this planet was named after this girl Remina, people start to think that she's responsible, and now they're trying to sacrifice her to get this alien planet to leave them alone. Now, the titular character of Remina is honestly a pretty sympathetic character, albeit a kind of two-dimensional character, but you still definitely feel for her, and that's something that Junji Ito does really well, where even if he doesn't have the most complex or three-dimensional characters, he still has a way of making you feel for his characters. Although I gotta say, my favorite character in the book was this homeless man who Remina encounters as she's running from the mobs, and he becomes sort of her reluctant savior. And for me, the creepiest aspect of this story was just the sense of apocalyptic dread you get while reading it, where you see the planet faced with this existential crisis, and you see society completely collapse. And honestly, as outlandish as the story does get, the way society in this story just plunges into chaos is chillingly believable. Now, while it might be Junji Ito's bleakest story, it's not without humor, albeit very dark humor. And it gets batshit insane, especially towards the end of this, where because this creature is so close to the Earth, it's fucking with the Earth's gravitational pull, where because gravity is different, people now have, like, superhuman strength and can basically fly across the planet like Superman, and there is a certain point where this alien planet actually licks the Earth, and this also fucks with weather patterns and shit. And towards the end, you have this massive chase scene where this homeless man who has become Remina's reluctant protector is flying with her, while you have thousands, potentially millions of people flying after them and basically chasing them across the entire world. And it's so ridiculous, yet somehow it's kind of creepy as well, and that's something that Junji Ito does so well, where he takes the absurd and makes it disturbing. Now, while the book definitely has a lot of commentary on mass hysteria, it also has a lot of commentary on celebrity culture and sort of the price you pay for fame, as well as fan obsession, where you have these guys who are fans of Remina who are trying to protect her in the beginning, but they get pretty freaking creepy around her. Now, there's also a subplot in the manga where you have these rich elites who decide to leave the Earth and try to land on the planet Remina's surface, and they think they could take their chances on this planet, and what ends up happening to them on the surface of the planet Remina is pretty freaking terrifying. Another thing that was pretty interesting in this manga is there is this subtle implication that perhaps this planet, Remina, is actually a demon planet. Like maybe this wormhole that opened up was actually the gateway to hell, and this planet is literally a piece of hell. But yeah, Remina was a very good horror science fiction manga, and I highly recommend this if you're a fan of Junji Ito's work, and if you're a fan of cosmic horror and apocalyptic horror, definitely check this out. Now, before I end this video, I want to cut to my friend Christian Feliciano, who is a regular guest in my videos, giving his thoughts on Junji Ito's Remina.
Junji Ito continues to amaze me. He is one of the greatest horror authors of our time, and I'm not just talking about comic books, I'm talking about horror in general. He manages to make stories that are so disturbing and so spine-chillingly freaky that they really do disturb me. I have a hard time finding things that disturb me. Not that I go looking for stuff to disturb me. I'm not going on the internet and going down rabbit holes trying to find the most disturbing, I don't know, video, snuff video, whatever. I'm not doing that. I don't do any of that crazy stuff. But when I do come across something that disturbs me, even that takes a lot. Because I've watched many horror films that come out, and especially the ones recently. They don't scare me. They don't disturb me. I'm not scared of most monsters. I'm not scared of vampires, werewolves, any of that stuff. That doesn't creep me out. What really creeps me out is when somebody can take a story that could actually happen, and yeah, they might play around with it and exaggerate it, but if they can make it in a way that seems plausible, that will scare the hell out of me, especially when it comes to stuff with the ocean, when it comes to stuff with space, cosmic horror. That stuff really scares me, and the story in this one is that there's a planet heading towards Earth, and a scientist names the planet after his daughter Remina, and society of course goes crazy because they're freaking out that this planet is heading this way, so they start to blame the daughter, and they turn into a mob, a very violent, hostile mob, and they're just irrational. It's just very irrational how people are acting. They're just being violent and sick and disturbing. That kind of stuff scares me. And that kind of stuff really scares me. The idea that of society falling, that just, I can't, that stays with me, and it does haunt me when I see somebody do it right, and this story really did haunt me. Remina is one of Junji Ito's best stories, in my opinion. It is exaggerated, obviously, to a point, you got to do that, but I feel like he really made a masterpiece here. I love this story. It's one of the actual new ones I've read. I've read Junji Ito before I read this one, but this one is the latest one I've read, and I just instantly I'm putting it at one of his best. Like, I love it. It's fantastic. The whole thing. It's written brilliantly. The characters are well written. They're not as deep as a character study would be, but in a way, this is more of a character study of society. So I don't mind it that much. I think the way he presents this story, it just fits for the story. The way he does the characterizations in this book, I think it just fits for this story, and it works. It really works, and I enjoy it. I recommend everybody who's into horror to check out Junji Ito. Not just this one, but any of his works. It is fantastic. You will love all his stuff. Now, some of it is very, very violent. And gruesome and gory. So just be careful, research, see what you want to pick up. If you're really queasy, I would recommend just being really, really careful about picking up his books. You might still want to read it, because I get queasy sometimes, and I enjoy his work. You know, he touches some subjects that I don't like to look at or talk about, and I still enjoy the stories. So it might work for you. You might be able to get into it. You know, you might be able to get into the more crazy side of horror by reading Junji Ito. I know I definitely enjoy it, like I said, even though I have certain phobias and stuff that he touches, and it, you know, I'm able to deal with it. So it works. I love it. Definitely recommend everybody check it out. And yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye.